Hello. So someone from Patreon asked if I would make a short video on a area of effect for healing for the player character. So that's what we're going to be doing today in this video. We're going to be making a statue that you can stand near and slowly regenerate your player's health. So to get started, let's go into the content browser, right click, and create a blueprint class. I'm going to actually go into the blueprints folder here and create it right here. And we're going to create an actor class, and I'll name this BP Healing Statue. And then open up the blueprint, and in the top left corner in the Components tab, click the Add Component button, and we're going to add a static mesh. And I'll just name that Statue Mesh. Now the next thing we want to do, with your statue mesh selected in the Components tab, select Add Component again, and we're going to add a sphere collision. And we'll name this Healing Trigger. And we'll make it a bit larger. You just want it to be the size, whatever size you want really for your statue. Whenever you enter the collision area, it's going to start healing your player, and when you leave the collision area, the healing event will stop. Alright, with the healing trigger selected in the Components tab, scroll to the very bottom of the Details panel, and we're going to create an on-component begin overlap event. And select your healing trigger again, and we're also going to create an on-component end overlap event. Now in the event graph, we want to find our event begin play, and we're going to cast to our main character. In this case, it's the combat character, since I am using DCS for this. Right click the As BP Combat Character, promote to variable, and we're just going to name that player. Alright, now that we've created that player reference variable, we can drag it into our graph. And on the on-component begin overlap, we want to drag off the other actor, and just hit the equal key, and we want to get an equal object, and plug the second pin into the player variable. That way we're just checking that the overlapped actor is the player character. And from the equal object, we'll get a branch. And now you can copy these two nodes down to the event end overlap. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a function. So on the left hand side in the My Blueprint tab, go ahead and go to the function section and hit the plus function button. And we will just name this Healing Burst. And this is where you would add the health to your player character. Since we're using DCS, we're going to be using the modify stat node that's pertaining to the DCS stat component. So go ahead and just drag your player variable into here. We're going to drag off the player character and get stat component. Actually, we can just type modify stat, and it's actually the extended health component that we need. So the same technique here could also be used for something like flames, where you would cause damage to your player. You would just insert a negative value here instead of a positive value, or any other kind of damage area effect. And we can just set a value here, or what else we can do is we can actually promote this to a variable and just name this heal value and set it instance editable. That way we can change it throughout the world so it doesn't always have to be the same value. We are going to set the default value here to 10. Or actually, let's set it to 5. Okay, now let's go back to our main event graph. And on the begin overlap event, right after the branch, on the true of the branch, we're going to get a timer by function name. We're going to set timer by function name. And we can go ahead and just copy our healing burst function name here and paste it in the box in the set timer by function name. We're going to set the time to 1 second. The time is going to decide how often the healing burst will activate. So with this set to 1, every 1 second you'll gain the amount of health that this heal value is set to. So if you want to gain health faster but a lower heal value, you can set this to maybe 0.1 and only heal 1 health instead. And we're going to check the looping box. And now on the on-component end overlap, on the true of the branch, we're going to clear timer by function name. And let's paste in our function name here again. Compile and save. And let's test it out. And you can see as I'm standing next to it now, my health is slowly going up. And once we are no longer next to it, the health stops regenerating. So another thing we can add to here, just to make it look a little nicer, if we go back into the healing burst function, let's spawn a emitter. We're going to spawn emitter at location. For the location pin, just click and drag off of it and get actor location. Alright, that's all. Well, actually, let's add one more thing in here before we end the video. If you notice, once the health is all the way full, the statue continues to fire off the particle effect as if it was trying to heal the player. You could leave that on there, or if you'd rather the statue read the player's health first and actually check if they need to be healed, then we can do that also. Let's go ahead and add it in here quickly. So in the healing burst function, right after the player variable here, we're going to use the get extended health variable. And from this, get current value. And we're also going to get max value. And what we need to do here is we need to check if the current value is equal to the max value. So from the current value, from the float pin here, we will just get a float equals to float. Actually, I'll use the greater than or equal to. The health should never be able to be greater than the max value, but it'll work either way because it's got the equal to on there. From the greater than or equal to float, we want to get a branch. And on the condition of this branch, we're actually going to add a not boolean. Because we want to plug the true of the branch in here. You could also have just plugged the false in, but this is just the way I would prefer to do it. So if the current health is not greater than or equal to the max value, then it will fire off this modify stat and spawn emitter here. But if it is equal to or greater than the max value, then it will hit the false pin and it will fire off nothing. So our health is full right now and the statue does nothing. And now since our health was lower than the max value, you see the statue firing off. And once we hit the max value there, it should stop. There we go. Alright, so that's all for this video.